Washington is in turmoil. Just a few days ago, leaked documents appeared online and sent shockwaves through the American political establishment. According to journalists from the Financial Times and Spain's El País, citing insiders from Mexico's government, Mexico has been secretly negotiating with Beijing to secure a special BRICS partnership status. This does not mean formal membership, at least not yet, but the implications are enough to rattle Washington. For the United States, the idea of its closest southern neighbor exploring integration with an economic and political framework spearheaded by China, Russia, India, and other powers feels like a direct strategic challenge. The news has been described in Trump's inner circle as a nightmare scenario. If confirmed, it would mark the first time a country in the immediate orbit of the United States edges toward Beijing's sphere of influence. Bloomberg analysts warn that this is no longer just a clever diplomatic maneuver. It is instead a deliberate lever of pressure on Washington, a clear signal to Donald Trump that his protectionist trade wars and aggressive tariff policies are starting to backfire. According to Reuters Mexico, the leaked documents state that negotiations have been ongoing for 6 months in a strictly closed format. Senior Chinese officials from the Ministry of Commerce have met discreetly with Mexico's deputy ministers of the economy. Sources close to President Claudia Sheinbaum's office claim the discussions extend far beyond simple trade or investment. They include areas such as energy cooperation, infrastructure development, logistics planning, and even partnerships in digital technology. For Mexico, this represents a historic chance to break free from almost total dependence on the United States. For Beijing, it is a rare opportunity to secure a foothold in North America itself. And for Trump, it is a geopolitical disaster in the making, one for which his administration has no ready strategy. Experts at the Council on Foreign Relations point to a broader pattern. While Trump clashes with America's traditional allies such as Canada, Germany, and Japan, China has been quietly and systematically opening doors to those who once appeared firmly within Washington's sphere. Beijing demonstrated this approach with India, transforming tense relations into mutually beneficial cooperation. Insiders in Beijing revealed that a similar proposal for Mexico has been in preparation for more than a year. For Xi Jinping, such a partnership would represent nothing less than a strategic strike at the very heart of the U.S. geopolitical order. Mexico's economic situation makes this particularly sensitive. As the Wall Street Journal reports, more than 80% of Mexican exports are bound for the United States. Yet over the past decade, China has gradually deepened its role in Mexico's economy. Its investments have been particularly focused in the automotive and electronics industries. In 2023, according to Financial Times estimates, Chinese direct investments in Mexico's high-tech sector exceeded $10 billion. What was once primarily an economic relationship is now poised to transform into political leverage. Inside the White House, Trump's advisors have already labeled the prospect a national security threat. Privately, several admit the leak caught them completely off guard. A Politico source bluntly remarked, "If Mexico truly falls into the BRICS orbit, it will be a strategic defeat for Trump comparable to losing an ally during the Cold War." Faced with this possibility, Trump has ordered the Treasury and State Departments to prepare sanction options targeting companies involved in future Mexico-China ventures. Yet experts at the Brookings Institution argue that Washington has few effective levers of pressure. Punitive economic measures could easily backfire, harming American companies as much as their Mexican counterparts. U.S. manufacturers, such as General Motors and Ford, rely heavily on Mexico as a critical hub in their supply chains. Disruptions could trigger chaos across the automotive and industrial sectors. China, meanwhile, is moving with quiet precision. According to Xinhua, Beijing believes the timing is perfect. The United States is distracted by internal political divisions and weakened by the burdens of trade wars. In such a climate, expanding its global network of strategic partnerships is easier than ever. Even an informal partnership with Mexico would be a symbolic breakthrough, the first time a country on the United States border signaled its willingness to follow a path shaped in Beijing rather than Washington. For Mexico, the rationale is straightforward. Trump's tariffs on steel, aluminum, and agricultural exports struck heavy blows to the Mexican economy. On top of this, threats to restrict migrant remittances, which form a vital lifeline for millions of families, were interpreted as intolerable. As analysts at El Financiero explain, Mexico wants to send a message. It will no longer be held hostage to Washington's policies. Engaging with China is a way to rebalance and assert independence. The question now is what comes next. If Mexico secures BRICS partnership status, The Economist suggests the country could soon explore partial participation in Belt and Road projects, integration into yuan-based payment systems, and the establishment of joint energy hubs. This would not represent a sudden break with the United States, but it would introduce a Trojan horse of Chinese influence into Washington's immediate neighborhood, complicating every aspect of U.S. strategy. On Capitol Hill, the fallout has been fierce. Democrats accuse Trump of pursuing reckless, heavy-handed policies that alienated America's closest neighbor and forced Mexico into China's arms. They argue that what Washington is now facing is a direct result of his trade wars and threats. Republicans, by contrast, try to defend the president. Some claim that Mexico is using the China option as a bargaining chip to pressure Washington into better trade terms. Yet even they concede the situation looks extremely troubling. Mexico, for its part, officially denies the reports. President Sheinbaum's office insists that no formal consultations with China about BRICS membership are taking place. But the statement was notable for its cautious tone and ambiguous wording, leaving room for interpretation. For many observers, that alone explains why the leaks caused such a sensation. If the talks are real, the United States faces an unprecedented geopolitical challenge on its border. If they are false, the mere existence of the rumors still undermines Trump's image, portraying him as a president whose policies push neighbors to consider Beijing as an alternative partner. As the New York Times noted, the mere plausibility of Mexico engaging with BRICS is evidence of how rapidly the global order is changing. American leadership, once taken for granted, is now under question. BRICS members themselves appear to be watching closely. According to the Hindustan Times, India has expressed cautious interest in expanding the BRICS framework, especially with strategically located economies like Mexico. For New Delhi, Mexico represents not only a valuable partner in agriculture and pharmaceuticals, but also an entry point into the Western Hemisphere. Brazil, too, has reason to welcome Mexico into the fold. As Folha de São Paulo reported, President Lula da Silva has long championed the transformation of BRICS into the southern pole of the global economy. Mexico's addition would grant his vision new legitimacy and momentum. For Washington, the implications are dire. Analysts at Rand Corporation estimate that even limited Mexican participation in BRICS projects could destabilize the USMCA trade corridor. Investors would seek alternative supply routes, while an increasing reliance on yuan-based transactions could undermine the dollar's dominance in Latin America. Such a shift would echo the warnings issued years ago by the International Monetary Fund, which cautioned against tectonic realignments in global trade and finance that could diminish America's influence. That is why the Mexico factor is no longer just a rumor in Washington. It has become a central focus of strategic debate in capitals across the world, from Beijing and Moscow to New Delhi and Brasilia. If the leaks are accurate, the world is witnessing a new reality. Mexico transitioning from Washington's junior partner into a more independent player capable of balancing between two rival centers of power. And even if the story proves exaggerated, the fact that such possibilities are now being openly discussed is enough to demonstrate how fragile America's global dominance has become. For Trump, it is a warning. For Mexico, it is leverage. And for China, it may be the breakthrough it has been waiting for, a foothold on America's doorstep in the struggle for the future of world order.